So, I think the title of this video is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to be going over my 5 favorite video game soundtracks of all time. This is based on series rather than individual games, and yeah, these aren't ordered. Let's start off with a bang. Okay, so I know I said in the intro these aren't ordered, but there's definitely a reason I picked Halo first, and that's because it's the reason I've made the video. The reason I say this is because I've recently been replaying the Halo campaigns, and I was going through Halo 3, and I was just realizing how good this game's soundtrack is, especially the track I played in the intro for this, called Finish the Fight, and obviously One Final Effort. This game has a lot of different variations on One Final Effort's little piano intro, and I think they're all really good. And I'm mainly talking about Halo 3 because this probably is my favourite, but I know I said I'd keep this more to series, so I've absolutely got to shout out Halo Reach, whether the music's trying to be adrenaline pumping.
Eat Vanak.
What's the status? Over!
We've been engaged! Bad guy coming out!
Or tragic. So yeah, I think every one of these games in the series has a great soundtrack. I think it's the one thing that stayed consistent with Halo games from Bungie to 343. And in every game in the series, to be honest. And I play the Halo Wars games, so I can't speak on them. But basically, all of the FPS ones. These games have phenomenal soundtracks. I think Halo 3's is my favourite, but all of the original trilogy has a pretty similar one. Reach's is also an absolute standout. One Final Effort is maybe my favourite game soundtrack ever, to be honest, just individual. I listen to it in genuinely any situation. But these games all have good soundtracks. Every game in this list has great soundtracks, obviously. And I've tried to keep this list as diverse in terms of genre as I can. But if I'm going to be talking about game soundtracks, there's no way I can't talk about this shooter. So I cannot do a video on game soundtracks and not talk about Doom. I did just say that, but I figure it's worth saying again. The track you heard in the intro is from Doom Eternal, and I think Mick Gordon does an incredible job. It's one of the best fitting game soundtracks of all time. It just fits the game it's in perfectly. It's a masterclass in that aspect. But if I'm going to talk about Doom, I have got to show you maybe my favourite game intro of all time from Doom 2016.
But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
really don't have much to say about Doom. I think this game, it sounds great even when you're not playing the game. If you're at the gym, if you're doing work, anything, it just gets you pumped up. It's an incredible soundtrack. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are the only two I've played. I will level with you. I have not played the old games, but they've been two of the most exciting gaming experiences of my life, and the soundtrack is a huge part of that. And I think now maybe it's time to switch genres. So I know it's probably, well, no, definitely cheating to include the whole Souls series because there are a bunch of different series of games just made by the same developer, but I just had such a toss-up between Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 3 that I just didn't know which to pick here, so I've just gone with the whole series. And the reason I used the Elden Ring one in the intro is just because it's probably the most iconic soundtrack, maybe other than the Gwyn one, which I'll talk about later, but I think this series has some of the best music in any game, so I just absolutely had to include them all on this list. So as I just mentioned, it was a bit of a toss-up between the three games for me, so I'm going to start with my favourite track from Bloodborne, which I'm going to be honest is pretty basic. It's probably the Ludwig one, which I implore you to just go and listen to, because it's not the one I'm going to be using in this video. I'm instead going to be using the one from the final boss battle, Gehrman the First Hunter. So you'd think for a final boss battle that they'd give you this big, epic orchestral song for your final confrontation, but Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all these games have never really been like that. So instead for Gehrman they do this. I think this is perfect because the fight is meant to be tragic, so the music reflects that. If you want to know more about this, you can look more into Bloodborne's lore, but the fight is meant to be sad, the music is great for it. Dark Souls 1 does this as well with Gwyn's theme, and Elden Ring's final boss theme is pretty, not somber, but it's very reflective and almost beautiful in a way. So FromSoft have done this a lot. It's a way of making the final boss fight feel more like a culmination of your journey than just another big dude you have to fight, you know? I think the game that does this best is Dark Souls 3. I think it's got the best final boss theme, and probably the most iconic one as well. So this song is perfect. It's one of the best uses of a motif in a game. To bring it back to Gwyn's theme from the first game, it's fan service in the best way. It brings the story full circle, which is the whole point of Dark Souls 3, is time being cyclical. It shows that so well in this, with the second phase even mimicking Gwyn's moveset. I played this game first, so I didn't really get the full impact on my first playthrough, but it's still great. I love this game. I could make a whole video about this game. I still might. But for now, this use of music is perfect, and I think that's a good place to leave it for the Souls series. So I'm completely aware of how basic of a pick this is. Undertale is often talked about as one of the best soundtracks of all time. It was one of the reasons that it was the absolute phenomenon it was in 2015 and 16. But I just couldn't not include it. I remember playing this game and seeing people play this game and just thinking about how good this soundtrack is. I've listened to it so much, to the point where Toby Fox was one of my top artists in my Spotify Wrapped, which is embarrassing, but deserved. And as to why I'm using this song, the one I use in the intro and the one I'm using in the background now, I could have used something like Megalovania or Undyne's theme or something a bit more, synonymous with the game. I've decided to go with this one, simply called Undertale. So the reason I've gone with this one is I think it is probably my favourite song in the soundtrack. It's really emotional. It combines so many of the motifs from the main game, especially his theme. It uses really well. It sounds great independently, obviously, but honestly made me really emotional in the game when it played. I love the part in the game when it plays, one of my favourite sections. It was the part that first played when this music started playing in the video, in the New Home section. Like Doom, I have very little to say about this one. Everyone said everything about this soundtrack, it's incredible. Everyone knows it's incredible. This is probably my favourite song from it. The song that might play when you fight Sans is pretty incredible as well. The genocide music is really, really good at almost being like a horror game. Completely changes the vibe of everything. Stuff like Hopes and Dreams, Save the World, I could just go on and on. It's not just the boss music in this game. The area music is incredible as well. So yeah, Undertale soundtrack is incredible. It is one of the best of all time. It's iconic. It's got so many bangers. Boss music's incredible. Area music is incredible. And to be honest, I really don't think there's many games that can top it.
Objection!
So there's a very distinct reason that I've put Ace Attorney last year. Like I said, there's no specific order to these soundtracks, but Ace Attorney is the game I've played the most recently, and it's the one that I have the most to say about, I think. Again, not to say it's the best, but it just is the one that I have the most to talk about. There's most tracks I have to talk about as well. This is going to be a lot more of me playing the music than me talking, but let's see how this goes. I want to firstly say that I've only played the original trilogy and a bit of the first Investigations Miles Edgeworth game, so I haven't played the Apollo Justice games yet. I will be soon, but yeah, not yet, so I won't be talking about any of the soundtracks from those. I'm aware that some of them are really good, but yeah, I've only played the first 3 games and the Investigations game, and I actually want to talk about very quickly the first Investigations game, because the pursuit theme from that, Lying Coldly, might be my favourite track in any Ace Attorney game. It's so good. So as I said, I think all three of the original trilogy have redeeming quality to their soundtrack. Well, the first one is a lot more triumphant, as you heard in the intro, even though it's the third game, but it's music from the first game. I'll explain that in a bit, but I think the first game is a lot more triumphant, has my favourite songs in it, like the original Cornered theme, which is just iconic, but I think the second one does a really good job of making things tense, like the telling the truth. And even the pursuit theme from Justice for All is really tense, and I think a really underrated one that I even considered using in the intro. And I won't spoil it, but the intensity of the theme works perfectly for the final case of this game, and I think the intensity of the OST of the second game in general, which I think is a really, really good one. But I think the third game excels in character themes more so, specifically Dahlia's. Which displays a very beautiful theme on the top, being very serene, but definitely has undercurrents of more sinister vibes, which definitely fits Dahlia's character really well if you played the games, and Godot's is just great as well. And I think with that, this video is finally about over. I've never really done a list video like this before, and I'm not sure if it's going to become a consistent thing. I've got a huge video I've been working on for like a few months in the backlog, so that should be good. The Party Animals videos have been really fun, but more gameplay stuff will probably be coming out soon anyway. But this has been a lot of fun to do, to be talking about soundtracks, one of my favourite things in games, so it's been really fun to talk about. But yeah, with all that, I will leave you with the ending of Trials and Tribulations, as I've been talking about it so often, and I will see you guys in the next one.